Think of it as our last memory together, please." I was shocked by my soon-to-be-married friend's sudden request. But before I knew it, I had agreed to her proposal. When she checked if I was okay with it, she nodded affirmatively. I'm Richard, a 26-year-old single man, working at an IT company. As usual, I was engrossed in my work, staring at my computer screen, when Catherine from the office woke in. "Catherine, it's rare to see you coming directly to the office." "Yeah, I came to see my dad, but good to see you, Richard. It's been a while. You look well." As Catherine smiled at me, I felt a sudden flutter and a twinge of pain in my heart. Trying not to let her notice my pain, I quickly looked away and said, "I think the boss is in his office, seeing her off." As soon as she was out of sight, my colleague, Bob, sitting next to me, grinned and began to speak. "Catherine, as always, looks gorgeous. You grew up with such a beauty, Richard. I'm jealous." Yes, the truth is, the CEO's daughter, Catherine, and I were childhood friends. When I was 11, my parents divorced due to my father's infidelity. Taking this as an opportunity, my mother moved us to the neighboring town, and I had to change schools. My mother showered me with all the love she could, but due to financial constraints, I always wore hand-me-down clothes. Even though I didn't care, my classmates naturally distanced themselves from me. I didn't have the latest comics or games, so I felt out of place in class discussions and had a dreary school life. One day, as I walked down the school hallway alone, Catherine approached me. "You know, my dad's company is hosting a computer course for kids. Want to come?" While I wore old clothes, Catherine always wore flashy branded dresses. She was an odd one out, but for a different reason. Being the daughter of an IT company's owner, she was a genuine rich kid, but that drew resentment from our classmates. Also, with her stunning looks, beautiful eyes, and long curled eyelashes, she was the envy of many girls. Considering all this, I wondered why she would invite someone like me and asked, "Why?" Then Catherine made a surprising remark. "We're both kind of outcasts in class, aren't we? I've always wanted to prove them wrong, and next month we'll start computer classes. If we learn ahead of time, maybe they'll see us differently. Employees from my dad's company will teach for free. Want to join?" Indeed, I was interested in computers, and the idea of learning for free was appealing. Also, like Catherine said, I wanted to show our classmates what we could do, so I accepted her invitation. When I went to the IT company for the course, Catherine's father, Mr. Johnson, warmly welcomed me. "Richard, nice to meet you. Thanks for coming. If you have any questions, just ask." Even though I wore worn-out clothes, Mr. Johnson greeted me with a kind smile. I was nervous at first, but the staff were all friendly, and I soon found myself engrossed in the course. Mr. Johnson even praised me, saying, "You have a knack for a computer." Looking back, I think this was a turning point in my life. 2 weeks after the course, when we had a computer class in school, Catherine and I were the first to finish our tasks. The teacher praised us and told the other students, "If you have questions, ask the teacher or these two." Since the teacher was already bombarded with questions, some students naturally came to Catherine and me for help. After helping them out, our classmates started to see us in a new light. Every time there was a computer class, we shined and became somewhat of heroes in the class. Even though we were just recently the outcasts, I never thought this day would come, and I was really thankful to Catherine. If Catherine hadn't invited me to the course, I wouldn't be who I am now. Thanks a lot. I should be the one thanking you. Seeing you working hard made me want to do my best too. From that event, our relationship deepened. Since then, I continued studying computers and, fortunately, right after graduating from high school, I secured a job at the company run by Mr. Johnson. I was the only one with just a high school diploma there, but Mr. Johnson always warmly told me, "I have high hopes for you." Now, I'm actively involved in the children's computer courses held at the company and teach them. Even if they are like me, without much money in their younger days, I hope many kids get the chance to experience using computers. Work is fun and volunteering is fulfilling. Living such satisfying days was truly all thanks to meeting Catherine. As I was reminiscing about these memories, Bob mockingly remarked, "But Catherine is getting married next month, right? Then you won't be able to chat like now." Yes, Catherine is indeed about to get married. Her fiancé is the heir of a listed company, and they have been dating with marriage in mind since their matchmaking half a year ago. Though Catherine's computer skills are outstanding, lately, she's been mainly doing remote work preparing for her life as a housewife and rarely shows up at the office. She's being groomed to be the future CEO's wife, so she probably doesn't need to work. And so, the chances of meeting her have been gradually decreasing. When I joined the current company, I was happy thinking I can always be with Catherine, but her world as the CEO's daughter and mine are just too different. I've had special feelings for her since long ago, but I realized I've been suppressing them. Catherine is getting married soon. I need to get over it. I kept telling myself that, but later, I encountered an unexpected event. On Friday, I wonder how I should spend tomorrow. I was lost in thought when suddenly Catherine gave me a call. It's been half a year since she last contacted me. My heart raced as I answered, and she made an unexpected proposal. "Hey, are you free tomorrow? If you are, can you hang out with me for a day?" "Huh? Hang out with me? She's about to get married. Is it okay for her to hang out with someone like me even if we've been close since childhood?" But Catherine insisted. "I just want to visit places from our student days. When I get married, I won't be able to visit my hometown often. So think of it as making the last memory, please." Since Catherine was so passionate, I eventually agreed. But I never thought I'd be going out with her alone after grown-up. This is like a date. The next day, I got dressed and headed to the park where Catherine told me to meet. Catherine had already arrived, and she looked stunning in a pink dress that I couldn't help but stare. Upon seeing me, her eyes sparkled. "Richard, I'm sorry for asking this of you suddenly, but I really wanted to reminisce." "You don't have to apologize. I was free anyway. By the way, this park, we used to come here a lot." Seeing her dressed up made my heart race, but I brought up the park, and Catherine smiled happily. "Yes, I wanted to visit after a long time. The playground equipment is well maintained, and it hasn't changed at all. It feels like we've time traveled back to our childhood." Yeah, those were the days. We played freely and had a lot of fun. So, we decided to visit our old haunts and reminisce about the past. I and Catherine went to the public library we used to frequent to study computers and remembered the convenience store we used to stop by during our high school days. We then headed for lunch at a burger shop where we had been to for the after-party of their high school fair. In high school, both of us were in the computer club. We had fun every day. The burgers here are still as delicious as ever. Yeah, I was poor, so I rarely got to eat out, but thanks to the earnings from the school fair, I was lucky enough to afford it. Indeed, although I am financially stable now, back in the day I was really short on cash. Perhaps that's why I couldn't confess my feelings to Catherine. I probably unconsciously felt we weren't a good match. Also, the fear of ruining the good relationship we had if the confession went wrong was unbearable. As the day wore on, tinged with nostalgia and sadness, we found ourselves at dusk. I wanted to spend the evening with her, but Catherine signaled it was time to leave. Sure, it would be prudent to leave now, given she's about to be married. "Richard, thank you for indulging me today. It was a fantastic day. It's given me strength for my married life ahead." Hearing this, a pang of sadness hit me. There won't be any more outings like this with her. But I didn't want a tearful farewell. With a big smile, I said, "The pleasure was all mine. Congratulations on your marriage. Wishing you all the happiness in the world." Catherine, with a wistful look, said thank you and walked away. I went home with a heavy heart. but I was later embroiled in an unexpected issue. After enjoying my first and last date with Catherine, I headed to the office on Monday with mixed feelings. Then, Bob approached with a mischievous grin. "Richard, never thought you'd be the type to betray Mr. Johnson. It's bold of you." What? I couldn't believe it and braced myself when Bob took out his cell phone and shoved its screen in my face. On it was a video of me and Catherine walking side by side, with Catherine saying, "Let's go grab some burgers." Bob had sneakily filmed us. It was clear that Bob had always been suspicious of my relationship with her. Sweating profusely, I thought about the consequences. Of course, I've already shown this video to the boss. Worst case scenario, you could even get fired. Well, I guess it's karma. Bob walked away with a mocking laugh. As I watched him leave, I felt a sinking feeling and went to my desk. Sure enough, I was soon called by Mr. Johnson for a talk. The other employees looked on with curious expressions, but Bob clearly found amusement in the situation. "Brace yourself," I told myself as I headed for Mr. Johnson's office. Mr. Johnson said, "Take a seat." The boss always had a way of staying calm and collected no matter what, and I deeply admired that about him. I felt guilty for inadvertently betraying such a person. As I waited for Mr. Johnson to speak, the unexpected happened. "I've seen the video Bob showed me. I haven't seen Catherine looking that happy in a long time. Thank you for spending time with my daughter." Wait, Mr. Johnson. I had assumed he was going to be reprimanded for going out with Catherine, so I was taken aback by the boss's gratitude. Mr. Johnson continued, "I need to tell you something in confidence." He began to share a shocking revelation. 3 months ago, Catherine had a checkup and found out she has some reproductive issues. She's healthy, but it seems she might have trouble conceiving in the future. She was devastated. Hearing this, I was at a loss for words. Then, another revelation hit. Catherine's fiancé, a well-to-do gentleman, had wanted to marry her despite the news. However, his parents were strongly against it. They desperately wanted a grandchild. Catherine, feeling guilty, had broken off the engagement herself. Imagining how Catherine must have felt then, I felt even more upset. Then Mr. Johnson added, "Catherine told me she's considering moving away because she doesn't believe anyone would love her now. But seeing her have a good time with you, her childhood friend, I think she's started to change her mind. Thank you so much. I can't imagine anyone ever loving me again." Hearing Mr. Johnson say Catherine felt that way, I realized I've always loved her, regardless of her circumstances. I've never been able to say this, but I love Catherine. I always thought I didn't stand a chance with her, being your daughter and all, but hearing your story, I can't deny my feelings any longer. Even if Catherine can't have kids, I want to be with her for the rest of my life. May I tell her how I feel? Richard, Catherine is truly lucky to have someone as kind as you. Would you go see her now? I don't have any pressing matters, and I'd like you to share your feelings with her. With Mr. Johnson's blessing, I left work early to go to Catherine's. I rang her doorbell, and she answered with a surprised look. "Richard, what are you doing here? It's still work hours." Seeing her face, I felt a surge of affection. "I had to tell you now, or I'd regret it. I love you." The moment Catherine heard my straightforward confession, she was taken aback for a moment, but then, with a sad look on her face, she responded, "Did you hear about the broken engagement from my dad? It's kind of you to pity me, but I can't have children. I was diagnosed with ovarian failure. I won't ever be able to conceive, so maybe you should find someone else." "No way," I interrupted her, gripping her hand tightly. Catherine, clearly taken aback, lost her words. But I needed her to understand my feelings. "It doesn't matter if you can have kids or not. As long as you're with me, that's all that matters. I've loved you since we were kids. Richard, thank you. I've always admired your positivity and resilience. I've loved you since we were children too." It seemed my feelings had finally gotten through. Tears filled Catherine's eyes as she leaned into me. The first time I felt such deep joy connecting with her. However, realizing that we couldn't just stand hugging at the front door forever, I asked if I could come in. Catherine led me to the living room, and as we sat facing each other on the sofa, she began to open up, wiping away tears. You know, because my dad is a big shot CEO, I've always been prepped to marry someone prominent. I thought I'd end up with someone like that someday. That's why, even though I've liked you since grade school, I had those feelings. Being the CEO's daughter had its own set of challenges, and Catherine had her share of battles. Thinking of all she'd been through, my heart ached for her. My ex-fiancé was a really decent guy. I didn't get the butterflies with him like I did with you, but I tried to convince myself it was the best choice, especially for my folks. But when I found out I couldn't have kids and the engagement ended, I finally figured out what I really wanted. Saying this, Catherine's deep, round eyes met mine. Richard, you're so good with kids and even do volunteer work, but I can't have children. I thought it'd be best for both of us if I stepped back. Are you sure you're okay with that? Holding her hand gently, I looked into her eyes. It's not about okay or not okay. To me, there's only you, Catherine. I don't see any issue. As long as you're smiling by my side, that's all I need. Richard, truly, thank you. From there, our relationship blossomed. We officially began dating and tied the knot 6 months later. Bob, who assumed I'd get the axe, was naturally floored by this twist. Who would have guessed you would marry the CEO's daughter? And you're likely the next CEO. Man, I'm green with envy. I wish I had a stroke of luck like that. To which I responded, if you keep pushing forward and giving it your all, things will turn around for you too, Bob. This was a new side of me to Bob, and he seemed taken aback, but that's what life's journey had taught me. After starting my computer classes and pouring in the effort, I felt my life had taken a positive turn. When I reached home, my son Mason excitedly ran up saying, "Dad, show me how to use the computer." Mason, our adopted son, was 10 years old. You got it. Let's dive right in. With that, Mason and I headed over to the computer. In the background, Catherine watched with a warm smile. With the love that Catherine and I share, I'm sure Mason will grow up surrounded by happiness.